All right. It is 7:07, and I will call the May 10th, 2021 Newcastle Board of Selectmen meeting to order. We're going to jump around a little bit tonight, as we usually do. And we're going to jump right down to 5.1, which is CMP structure replacement on the Great Salt Bay. And I'm going to turn this right over to you, Deborah. Start.
Hi, let's see if I get this to work properly. Okay, good evening, Mr. Lynn, Mr. Duke, and members of the Selectmen's Board. Thank you for having us tonight so we can present an update on our transmission line structure replacement on the island in Great Salt Bay. This was a project that we had hoped to do last year. There were a number of circumstances that required us to do a review of the project, including a new state law. We did that, and now we are ready to go. A lot of preparation has gone into this project, and we are ready to get started. So let's give you an update and why we are doing this. First, our project team and a number of the members are on this meeting. The unit manager is Paul Fecto. Paul is here. Project manager, as you know, is Josh Deal. He's been involved with this project for a couple of years. He has prepared us all very well, and Nicole Harbaugh is going to be working on the execution and completion of the project. Our environment and permits manager is Bill Goggin. You've met him as well. We were there actually a few weeks before COVID to talk to you about the lease. Our construction manager is Todd Wing and Jeff Strout. I am a projects outreach specialist. Dawn Hill also is on the meeting. She is our CMP customer champion. She looks at everything that the company does from the customer's point of view, and she does a fabulous job doing that. And Gary Emmond is an environmental and permits engineer from Power Engineers, who is also helping us through this process. One thing that we strive to do is keep people informed, and if ever you have any questions, we would hope that you contact us. This information will be on our website, cmp.com/reliability projects. You'll have to scroll down to get to it. You can email us at outreach@cmp.com or at that telephone number. And all of this is on the fact sheet that I sent to you all. And if I don't have the answers, I will get them for you, I promise. So section 28 is our radial 34.5 kV line. It travels 10 miles from the Damariscotta Mills substation to the Bristol substation, and it meets the needs of approximately 4,300 customers in Newcastle, Bristol, parts of Damariscotta, and neighboring villages. The line crosses the Great Salt Bay between Newcastle and Damariscotta with a wood pole. It's an H-frame structure on a small island. This island structure was built in 1967. It is aging and in need of replacement to ensure reliable service. And here is an aerial view from Google Earth of where the section travels and the island. So project considerations, what we have to take in mind with this is access to the island, of course, is first and foremost. The water is too shallow for a barge to bring our line equipment to the island. So we will be building a floating road that is specifically designed to work well in environmentally friendly, environmentally sensitive areas. Given the archaeological sensitivities and of the area, we were mindful of that as well. And also eagles and other wildlife. And we'll get to these a little bit further here in the presentation. So our project planning and schedule, our construction crews are going to mobilize in July. After a couple of weeks, the floating road construction will take place, and that will take approximately one month. The structure replacement will take place in September, and then late September to early November, we're going to be removing the floating road and begin site restoration cleanup of the areas. On the Damascotta side, the Coastal Rivers Conservation Trust. We have been working with them to access their property to get to a structure on the other side of the water. And we will be working in their area on a rolling period for 2 weeks in September. And I'll mention that here further in the presentation as well of why we are there. So here is what the structure looks like now and what it is going to look like. It will be a new wood structure, approximately 17 feet taller above ground, and it will be built in line with the existing structure. The conductors will be transferred to the new structure. Once we're done with that, the existing structure will be removed and taken off the island. Modernized federal requirements related to electrical liability and the safety of public and water bodies are the reasons for the increased pole heights. Anchor lines. To accommodate the island's structure's increased heights, we need to work on the anchor lines on a 3-pole structure that's located near the Coastal Rivers Conservation Trust, the Salt Bay Farm and Nature Center. So we're going to be strengthening and adding 3 lines and moving or replacing, taking out a couple of others. But that is why we're there to, again, for reliability. So access to Great Salt Bay. Last year we were there before COVID, and we reached an agreement with you all, thank you, for a lease agreement in which CMP can use the town's salt sand bay area off Route 215. In exchange for that, we provided distribution work, pole work for the Academy Hill Road Beautification Project. When we are done in the area, we will restore the salt and sand bay area, to its existing condition or even better when we are done. And of course, this is one of the poles that we worked on for your beautification project. So the floating road. The floating road is to allow our equipment to reach the island, and it will be placed from the salt sand bay area. What it is, it's a wetland access system engineered by MTech Matting Systems, which is engineered mat technology. It's comprised of floating pontoons and then topped with wooden mats. What this does, it distributes the weight to protect the sensitivities of the wetlands or the environment underneath it. There is a diagram of what it looks like. You can see some of the pontoons, the float assembles, the mat runners, and how it will be set up. To also be mindful of wildlife and waterway and aquaculture sensibilities and sensitivities in the area. We're going to be putting up turbidity curtains to catch any mudflat sediments along either side of the access way. And this is an example. We recently completed a tower replacement in the Fore River in South Portland, and that is, we have the curtains up there too. So work hours and safety. There'll be no nighttime work. Construction noise will be present, and you may hear heavy equipment during pole setting activities. We are going to install a fence gate to secure the access to the floating road. Safety lights will be placed on the floating road, and temporary lighting may be placed along the shore during construction to ensure safety. CMP and our contracts also will follow strict safety and COVID-19 protocols. So with the archaeological survey, this was conducted last summer. Because of the high likelihood of prehistoric cultural resources being present around the bay, and as part of the permitting process, we contracted with qualified archaeologists who excavated and cataloged cultural resources within our work areas. The island is owned by the state of Maine, and so a report of the findings has been filed with the state, with our state and federal project permits. And due to the sensitivity of the archaeological resources, we're unable to answer any questions about what we did find, but we during the survey. But we, if you are interested, the questions may be directed to the State Historic Preservation Office. Also, with any project that we do, we are mindful of wildlife and eagles. And we have consulted with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, along with Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, regarding eagle activity in the area within the bay. And our construction schedule includes provisions to meet time of year requirements as detailed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in our projects, in our project permits. The next thing that we are doing is you have the fact sheet, but we design all of our projects with community in mind. And in the projects area of CMP, what is new for the last couple of years has been public outreach. And that is me and a coworker. So what we do is we keep the communities in mind, and working with Dawn, working with our projects team, we look at things from a community perspective. So we sent a fact sheet to area people on both sides of the bay who may be seeing the work or hearing it. And we also send a construction notice letter to them. And as this project moves along, we will send updates about the project. Everything that we send has our project info line number on it for people to call, as well as our outreach email address. And we are now available to answer any questions if you'd like. Thank you for your time with us.
That's great. Thank you. I had one quick question for you. So the project end date is going to be sometime in November.
Yes.
And I guess this might be a dual question might be more of a question for Seth. Is there anything you see, Seth, in being an issue with stacking your sand or getting things ready? Because I know we can't have snow in November. So is there anything you see, or have you already gone over all this with them?
We've had this discussion in the past when this project first started to go, and we thought it might happen last year. I'm pretty sure we can work together. I mean, they've been great. They worked with us on Academy Hill in a short fashion, and they did some stabilization up there at the site for us already. We've kept the bank back on that side so they can have access, because they're going to need to go down over, Joel.
Yep.
I think that we can, we'll be trucking sand in, but I'm pretty confident. Who's the, just curious, who's the earthwork contractor going to be that you guys are using out there?
Joel?
No, I think it was a question for you.
Yeah.
No, excuse me, Josh Teal, the question.
Yeah,
answer.
that's Blue Rock. Can you hear me now? I got kicked off, but I'm back on now through my phone.
All right, Blue. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Blue Rock, and we can put you in touch, Seth, with the superintendent there as well as ourselves.
Yeah, just give me a contact number, and I'm sure we can work around it. We can keep our sand stacked to that side, and hopefully, if you're going to look to be done by November, we'll keep our fingers crossed. We don't have a whole lot of conflict with snow that early in the year, anyways. But if we do, it should be pretty short-lived, I hope, and I'm sure we can work around it.
Yeah, understood. Okay, will do.
All right. And then just a quick curiosity question. So will there be any interruption in power during this transition? I mean, there's got to be something at some point, right?
No, sir.
No,
Wow.
none.
There you go.
I'm sharing the power you guys gave me with all of you through this whole project. No, there won't be any power outages during this project.
Oh.
To do the work.
They won't be related to this, right? You can't guarantee there's no power outages.
We can never.
No power outage between July and November. Do I have that on record? That's what I heard. This is pretty
Not
good.
related to this project.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I can't guarantee what a squirrel will do. So,
Yeah. Because it's been a windy year, so.
Yeah, it has been. That's true.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions or anything they want to talk about?
Hey, Joel, one quick question for them and maybe for the board as a general rule. Just as a matter of safety, I know that we have a delicate situation up there with lights for as far as wintertime is concerned. But if those guys do get caught, this is the time of year where we start to see some shortening of days and things start to get squeezed as we move into November. We do have some light availability up there. I don't know if the town would allow them. We can show them how to turn them on and off, and they could have lights to the site, as long as that doesn't disrupt neighbors. I know that that's a sensitive situation. We don't want to abuse our power up there, but that just may be something that helps speed this along for them if the board is willing to consider that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they it's a safety thing or whatever, I think it's definitely fine with me, but I don't know how anyone else feels.
I can show them how to turn them on and off, and then they can just use them if they need to as it gets dark in that late fall type of time frame, and then they can just shut them off before they leave if that's something that's agreeable.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with that. Rob, Tor?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd concur. I think, if it expedites the project and keeps it safe, of course, we should use the lighting we have.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the project team will be in touch if that is needed. We appreciate the offer.
I had one question. During the first time around when we were discussing this, there was obviously a great deal of concern about the eagles nesting and the potential impact. Any sense of what impact, if any, that would have on starting work this summer?
Is Gary on? Gary? Okay, no. My understanding is that it will not have an impact. We had seen some remnants of a nest, but we didn't see any nesting activity. But we are still monitoring that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we are still working under the requirements of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to ensure that we don't disrupt any nesting if it does take place.
Sounds good.
I can add to that too. What we have found is there is it's like a man-made platform it's within the trees, but it's on the island, and we don't plan to disturb it, physically whatsoever. But along with that, it carries a restriction where construction is not allowed within 660 feet until August 16th. So we've planned around that, kind of as a, schedule wise, as a late activity. But we've also been working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife on that exact location. We don't see an actual nest with with eggs inside of it on the platform, but there's definitely like a lot of, I would call it, perching and roosting activity in that location. So, overall, there's a lot of sensitivity there, and we're, until we get a more really positive confirmation, within a week or so of construction, we're assuming that we're going to perform our work outside of the sensitive time frame. So that's kind of why we see that, we're not working until, on the island itself until, very late August, in September. But of course, that also pushes us up against the winter time where, we need to have that lot back open for you folks so you can use it for its purpose. So that's kind of our schedule squeeze right there.
And I think Josh, last year there was some hope that if the Eagles weren't present, then you could start that earlier and avoid any sort of conflict. But it seems like the plan right now is we're just going to go ahead with that mid-August start date and roll from there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
We may get a positive confirmation and then coordinate that with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, but to move a little earlier. But that would get us a week, because that's the only time we can really get a definitive answer and make that determination. So playing it safe for the Eagles, playing it safe for us, I guess.
There you go. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
All right. And does anyone from the CMP team have anything else they want to add, or? All right. Well, thank you again for coming in and doing such a good slideshow and explaining the whole process. And we'll do everything we can to work with you and make it go as easily as possible. So thanks
Thank
again.
you. Thank you so much. It's nice meeting all of you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Boy, that room cleared out fast, huh?
Yeah, it did. Didn't take long. All right. So now we're going to jump right back up to 4.1, which is we're going to discuss the Midcoast Economic Development District membership for fiscal year 22. And John, do you want to give an intro on that, or do you want to pass it right on over to?
Sure. Yeah. Well, let me just start and start with how this conversation began. So, as many of you know, we've been working through somewhat trying to work with the code and trying to get it established and make it something that from a theoretical document to one that's administered in the office. And obviously, you guys worked on the fee schedule, and we talked about the application form. Then bumps along the road, certainly. But now we're 4 months in and almost 5 months in now, and I think we have a pretty good sense of what the needs are and where our shortcomings are in terms of the office, in terms of how we're administering this document. But I also, there's also a number of things that are somewhat on the I think on the periphery of our the conversations we're having. And I had a very, very brief chance to talk with and work with Max. Came to a meeting of the managers of Bristol and Damascotta, Booth Bay. I think Chris Johnson from Somerville was there, and he really helped us get started on the lights, the LED streetlight project. And so Max's work with, I think, the town of Waldoboro probably is where he was, and he was able to help us avoid a lot of pitfalls that might have befallen us. So in any event, I've known of McEd. It's not an organization I've done a lot of work with in my time in Hope or in here, but they are an organization that has done a great job in trying to fill the gaps in communities that have planning needs that are outside and somewhat beyond, kind of the traditional CEO does it all. And I think where we are at this moment as a town, with our new code, with the comp plan that we're working on and trying to put in concert with our code and eventually gain state approvals for that document. This is a good time where I think having another voice in the room with a little bit more experience, a little more knowledge would be very helpful. The town doesn't have the ability, or I think have established a need for someone in the office daily, as seen in other communities, larger communities. So I reached out to Max and I had a very brief chat with him about what's going on in the town, what we're doing, where we're going. Some things are a little bit outside of what in the letter Max wrote back to us, and some things that really in the wheelhouse of what we're talking about here. And so what we're talking about here really is some things that are focused really on assisting the planning board, assisting the code officer, providing that planning consultation that will help us to manage this new document, and then here and there offering consult and sage wisdom, we'll say, with our comp plan implementation committee to look at the work that they've done and try to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. Rob and Tor unfortunately weren't able to make our last meeting, but we had, there's a lot of those conversations of, well, how far is too far? And then, back weeks, is this really what they're looking for? Or do they want, chapter, verse, and everything in between? So, we need having some expert advice is really important in that. And then, of course, there's a future piece, but really focusing on those two areas is really where Max and I settled on. And so he put together a letter for us that kind of responded to what I think our needs are. And I'll let Max maybe talk a little about what McEd is, but also, the content of the letter and maybe what McEd could do for Newcastle. So Max, fire away, my man.
Thanks, John. I mean, John pretty much just nailed everything with the conversation we had. So Midcoast Economic Development District is a non-profit organization where, as the letter I gave you described, we're driven by the membership dues that we get from the communities. We're primarily Saginaw County, Lincoln County, Knox County, and then Harpswell and Brunswick down in Cumberland, and then Northport, Searsmont, and two others in Waldo County. We haven't done too much work in Lincoln County for the good half of the 2010s, because I think that was when Lincoln County planning took that direction when they did, and we respect what Lincoln County planning does for a lot of their planning services as well. We don't like to step on anyone's toes or anything. And right now we do offer some planning services to, well, day-to-day stuff. I'm always in Waldoboro, as John pointed out. I'm there like 3 days a week. We have people who are up in Rockport, I think, for 3 or 4 days a week as well. That is a contractual offer that we do get some towns, but just being a dues member, that's paying $1.25 for every member of the population of your town. And we're basing it on the actual census data. We don't do that estimated thing. So, 2010s for now, that's the number that we follow. And I think I put that in the letter there. Mm-hmm. Essentially, if you need some assistance, if you just need to talk to someone and say, hey, can you help moderate? Can you help with planning? Can you help clear something up with a planning board discussion? Can you help with this grant? Just take a quick look at it. Just give me a call and we're right there. We can help you. The other benefit is because we are an economic development district, we open up the town to be in the SETS program, which also puts you into the Economic Development Administration program. Just across the bridge over in Damariscotta, they have their waterfront project going on right now. That whole thing started when, well, Matt and everyone who's in Damariscotta certainly were doing their project, but one day, myself, Bill, and Maypower, we just went in and we said, hey, we can help you get some money, but here's the steps to it. And that's how it evolved from just a bathroom project to their entire waterfront project. And an EDA is just a public infrastructure project. So, somewhere down the line, if there is some big project you're imagining, a utility expansion, another working waterfront project, anything along those lines, just being a dues member, we open that door up for you, and that can be a very long-term beneficial project. Damariscotta, they haven't even been a member of our organization for, I think 2010 is when they signed on, and they just got the project off the ground right there. In addition to that, we also do assist with some businesses that are looking for some loan services. And I'm trying to think, we offer a variety. That pretty much sums it up. We try to accommodate where we can. We do a lot of comprehensive plan work as well. We're going through a big season right now with a few towns. Washington, I think Hope, Thompson, we did theirs about a year ago. Pittsburgh, we've been working on that. There's a few towns that just all over the area we've been helping out. And so if there's some small little project, it's just overworked at your town office and you just need someone to help for just an hour or two or a day, I guess, then just give us a call. And that's probably something we can help you out with that on that day. So that's the basic gist of it.
Okay. And just so it works out to be for the membership dues just over $2,000 for our town. So
$125 per resident.
Yep. Tor?
Hey, Max. So are you our guy then? Do you have an office with, other planners, or so when we do need to make contact, you're sort of our designee, or is there other people that we'll talk to?
So with McKed, we can offer you. So with McKed, you can call me directly. We also have another person that we just brought on recently, Ryan Thomas. So you can, if I'm busy, I'd be passing on to him. He's a good guy as well. He's up in Rockport handling their stuff. And we always just base it on whoever's not doing too much that day, especially if it's a high priority item you're dealing with.
Cool.
One thing, go ahead, Joel.
No, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, one thing that Max and I did talk about is the unique nature of our code. And, I gave him the backstory as I knew it. I didn't get the Rob Nelson, beginnings version, but I did the best I could starting, I started 8 years after, Rob, when you guys began. But, I kind of laid our process out for him. And so he understands that. And the other thing that, he recognizes, and Max, feel free to weigh in here if you need to, but, we do have a unique code, and so it's difficult for just anybody to pick up, I think, and speak fluently with it. But I have a lot of faith. I have a lot of faith that the Max can do that and provide us. The main thing for me is it's agenda setting for the planning board. It's assistance to the planning board where needed. The code officer. It really just establishes that. And we had money in the budget to do this. And we actually, even if we do fully fund, by fully funding the amount, the dues portion, there's still another, a decent amount of money where still available within the budget if we needed to contract for more specific purposes too. So this is exactly kind of with the effort that I was looking at, is to start that ball rolling of trying to determine what our needs are. And then, if we're just a dues paying member, but we have access to some other items, of infrastructure monies being available, this may lead right down that road. Who knows where this goes? But I think it opens a door for us that I think right now, there's only so many hours for those of us who are not living in that world as Max and Bill and Orion are. So I think that opens doors for us that don't currently exist.
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I think having access to professional resources that we don't have is clearly valuable to the town. And this is a relatively easy way to ease into getting access to those resources. So I think this is promising, and it is an easy way to see how our need for further professional services evolves.
Yeah, and I just sort of add that we, we're reviewing our, we're sort of trying to go through our comprehensive plan right now and get that approved by the state. And there's a lot of things in there that, the committee and the town worked on. We did a lot of outreach to get feedback from people, and there's a lot of things sort of laid out, sort of as to what the future of Newcastle could look like. If we can move some of these projects along that we've sort of identified, and once we have the comp plan sort of cleaned up a little bit and approved, and we're through that phase of it, we are going to be setting up a committee that will be sort of looking at that document and identifying things. So I think having someone who has their sort of ear to the ground on potential grants and potential ways that we could actually accomplish some of these things would be awesome, because some of them do require money. So, but yeah, I think that would be a good help.
Sorry if I'm jumping in here, but I usually like to just tell anyone who's a due paying member, just tell me what grant you're looking for occasionally, and I'll always keep an ear to the ground. And even if it's a bit of a far off one, I'll make sure to forward and say, hey, I see this coming up. Is this something you want me to start going for? And if it is, then I can go for it. If not, then, you know, I'll just move on. So if there's something really big you want, just let me know.
Seth?
Hey, Joel, just a quick question for Max. Does the membership allow access into the DOT side of grant funding as well? Just curious, like they have certain programs out. Do you assist with that type of, if we wanted to apply for an LAP program or something on that side, do you interact with them at all?
I'd have to talk to Bill about that one for the DOT fund, for the DOT funds. I think we haven't done, I mean, we can apply for a grant that's through the Maine Department of Transportation. We don't do too much work with the Maine DOT because it's a bit of extra work for a little less money.
Yep.
So, but I can talk to Bill a bit more about that one specifically, because I'm just thinking the broader term. Yeah, don't know if that answers it.
No, that's fine. I was just curious as to, I know some of those programs they have are a little complicated, and as the board alluded to, and John, sometimes the resources to be able to get there just don't have the office time to be able to commit to try to get the funds. So I was wondering if that resource was something that you guys did as part of membership that could assist us. That's all. I wasn't trying to pin you down and give you a hard question to answer. That's all.
Oh, no. I didn't take it. I mean, as I say, if it's a grant, we'll apply for it. If I just the sort of broad thing going on with DOT, but if it's a grant, we'll apply for it.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's gotcha. Thank you.
Great.
So, John, are you looking for, you know, I guess sort of approval to move forward with this, or what are we trying to do here tonight?
Yeah, this is a bit of a change in how we've operated. So I'd like to, if I can get approval from the three of you tonight to move forward and effectively establish our membership with them beginning. I think it's July. Is that right, Max? Is your year? Okay. So it'd be out of our next year's budget, but effectively to start the process of establishing our membership with McKed. That's really what we're looking for tonight.
Yeah, you essentially get 2 months for free right now.
There you go. Buy now, get 2 months free.
We're already getting 45 minutes for free. So.
It's like that free trial, you know, on Hulu or whatever, Disney Plus. You know, you get the 14-day trial and then you cancel it.
Yeah, watch next week. That's when you're going to have someone come to the planning board for like, and I'm going to spend 20 hours on it every week.
Yeah.
I'd like to move that we authorize John to, I guess, seek an agreement with and handle an agreement with McEd to move for things forward.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? This is just to clarify. This is for the membership at this point. So that's what we're moving forward for the amount of $2,115 for the year with 2 months free. 14 months.
Yep, and just how I understood that, it's just that I'll be on call. You won't need me to be there 3 or 4 times a week or anything. And if you need me to just give some input for the comprehensive plan, again, I'm a phone call away and I can attend a meeting if myself or Ryan are available.
Yeah, John, Rob and I are both sitting on that committee right now where we're updating the comp plan to meet the state, what the state's looking for. So we're sort of just in the middle of that right now, but it's good to know that we'll have another somebody we can talk to, when these questions come up. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and again, I think it'll be valuable. Some of the issues that committee's looking at just to say, is this something we really need to beat our heads against the wall on or not?
Mhm.
And that's going to be valuable in and of itself.
All right. So I guess if there's no other further discussion on this, all those in favor of becoming a member of the Mid-Coast Economic Development District? That passes 3-0. So there we go. We're in.
John, I'll talk to you later about just membership dues and handling everything else, and we'll just talk later about coordinating, I guess.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, Max.
Thanks,
Night,
Max.
everyone.
Max, nice to meet you.
Hey, it was nice to meet you all. Drive safe.
All right. So now we'll move on to 4.2, roads reserve projects for the fiscal year 22. And we have Seth Hager here, our road commissioner, and we've reviewed the plans, and we've moved to approve the budget for all the projects, or to move the money for the next year. And I just wanted to start off, in years past, we've just kind of gotten a quick update on the projects, just a little explanation, just so that we know where things are moving with it. And so I thought maybe we just kind of start there, turn it over to Seth, and you maybe could just sort of go over, again, just give a brief overview. We can look at the different elements of the projects, and just so that we're all on the same page as to what these different pieces are when people ask us about them.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to start on the on just the capital side?
Sorry, Seth, I don't want to cut you off, but Joel, maybe we just back up just for a moment and talk about, we have recommended the town a budget that includes $686,734 in roads capital projects. And I know this is a discussion that we've started about what we want to call these things. I think by most definitions, these are capital projects, even though because we're extending the useful life of an existing asset, our roads, that it does count as capital spending. But I think that and that's a discussion we kind of started, we haven't really completed, about how we're going to classify these things. But that's sort of what we've already agreed on, is that we've got this amount of money that we want to invest in our roads in the next year. And we've also talked about how while we of course rely on the expertise and knowledge of our road commissioner, we as a board we're responsible for project selection and the direction of how we're going to spend those resources. And we've talked a little bit about how we make those decisions. Obviously, again, we rely on the expertise of our knowledge expert. But I think I'm hoping as time goes on, we can formalize these things a little more. And I know that I expect that there's some time pressure now for this year's budget. That's one of my first questions, is when do we need to say, yes, these are the projects we're doing this year in order to be ready to execute those projects. But I think like many things we're doing in town, we're trying to get a little more formal about our procedures and processes. So that's sort of a context for this discussion. I kind of wanted to throw those things out.
Rob, can I just go back to I want Seth to go through the plan that he has, and then we're going to get to that other stuff.
Okay, sure.
I just want to move through this so we have a jumping off point, because we can't be talking about projects that we don't know where we're headed with. So I just want to
Sure,
go through this list, and then we can sort of go down through before we
Connect thing.
put too many layers onto the issue. So just
Okay.
sit back for a minute, and let's let Seth sort of go through the project, the project list, his ideas with it, and how it fits within, the program that we started a few years ago, and then
Sure.
we'll jump into that other stuff.
All right. Well, hopefully, and maybe I'll be able to answer some of your questions, Rob, as we move.
Sure.
As I move through this, I'm just going to I'll just give a real brief overview, 30,000 foot, just, without getting into intimate details, unless of course you guys, I'm open to any questions or comments or concerns, but I don't want to bore you with too many specifics. The capital, the regular budget and the capital budget are intertwined in the sense that some of the items that we use for the capital budget are contained within the regular maintenance budget. I'll give you, for example, the culvert pipe that we purchase for some of the capital projects. There's a line item in our regular maintenance budget so that we can track and keep track of those pipes and the cost associated with it. The other reason that I do this is because contrary to putting something out to bid or using a contractor to provide those, the town has the ability to purchase these raw materials at direct cost. And so that eliminates any profit or any other type of overhead cost that you may have incurred in the past. So for example, culvert pipe, signposts, striping, stuff like that, we buy without any involvement from our company or anybody else's. We buy at net cost. We charge them direct to the town. The town utilizes that savings to put in the projects. So you'll see that some of those line items that are contained within our regular maintenance budget are there for a reason, because I use them to fund these capital projects. The actual capital project line that we have this year consists of several different projects. The first one being the surface on Stonebridge Circle. This is in continuation with our plan that we've started several years ago. As we work through our roads projects that we have are in a 3-year cycle, where the first year we go through and do our tree cutting work. The second year we go through and do our ditching, our culverts, and our base paving along with a reclaim. And then we also go through a third year where we do our finished pavement and our shouldering. So in continuation with that, we have the surface, because Stonebridge Circle was done last year. Last year, Stonebridge was in year 2. This year, it'll be in year 3. So we have the surface and shoulder material for Stonebridge Circle to complete that road. That's our first project that we have in our capital list. Our second project that we have in our capital list is Westlaw County Road. And Westlaw County Road consists of we had the tree cutting done last year. So this year we'll be doing the reclaiming, the base pavement, and all the culverts and associated ditching, ledge removal that we've done on the other roads as this part of this process continues. Our third project on the capital list is our guardrail installation on East Hall County Road. For any of you that have been on East Hall County Road, the first, as you go down over that first hill, it's pretty severe. We have houses right on either side. And that guardrail, to be frank, is in nowhere near of any type of compliance whatsoever. With the road being done on Academy Hill, and we tried to improve that intersection a little bit with some sight distance, I felt that it was prudent that we take the next step and finish that safety measure down off to the bottom of the hill. So I put that in as a project or capital project to get accomplished this year. While we're there doing that, there's also some slight erosion things going on that hill that needs to be attended to. And I have that covered. The fourth project that we have in our capital list is Sheepskin Fire Station. As you all know, that Sheepskin Fire Station has been, or is a It's a vital part to the town as far as, sorry, I'm just trying to get my power because the computer has been on my computer all day and it's just, there we go. That Sheepskin Fire Station parking lot is in pretty rough shape, and in hopes that we are there doing Westlaw County Road, it made sense to improve that lot and try to get that straightened around. So John had asked me to work up some numbers for doing some work at that intersection right there and improving the parking lot. So I have done that, and that is our fourth project that we have on the list for the capital project for this year. So that's, in general, that's the list of major capital projects that we have for the upcoming budget of this coming year. We still have some capital funds left over from this current budget that we are working to expand before July. Some of that entails the new sidewalk next to Veterans Park. We're actively working on that to try to get that in the schedule and get that done. I'm anticipating, I'd like to think probably in 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be there to try to achieve that. Obviously, we got Veterans Day. John and I have had discussions about that being time sensitive and needing to work around it, but we want to try to get that accomplished and get that done so that we can get that off the books for this year. It was left over from last year, and we have the subcontractor for the granite all lined up. It's just a matter of getting in and getting done. It's not a big project. I would think maybe a week or so just to get that sidewalk reset. That was it. That's pretty much it on the capital side of things. There is some additional funds left over, but in talking to John, we're just waiting to see how, we want to make sure everything comes out just right so that we are on budget and where we need to be. As you know, some of these capital budget items over the course of the year do get morphed or do get used for other things that come up as they're unexpected, related to storm damage or an unexpected washout or a situation that rises. We use some of those funds. We don't carry any type of contingency or emergency fund to be able to go out and have this cash. So we take it from other things that we just slide back on the priority list. So as we move through it and come closer to the end of the year to balance the books, we will be looking at that very carefully to make sure that we're where we need to be. But that sidewalk project is our last major capital project left over or still in the works under this current budget that we want to achieve before we go any further. There are some other projects, but I have them listed or classified as just general road maintenance, not necessarily a capital item, because their nature as a whole is less than reconstruction or big grand items. For example, under the regular maintenance budget, I have some reclamation and some repaving of Academy Hill. We did a small section last year, very similar to that. Again, I have for this year's budget planned to tackle a couple more sections on either side, just trying to keep with the road, prevent us from getting into a full rebuild type of situation.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
So I was just going to say that what Rob was sort of touching on, and this is the discussion that we're trying to move into, is we're trying to clean up our budget from an understanding standpoint of like the difference. The question that comes up is what's the difference between a maintenance project and a capital project, and the way we were sort of looking at it and what we had discussed was, maintenance being strictly maintenance and striping, sweeping, cold patch, storm damage, the sort of general stuff that gets done kind of every year. And then sort of putting these projects in a different list, just so that it was it was just easier to see the difference between the projects. So that was I think part of the thought. Is that what Rob and Tor, is that what you guys sort of understood? Mike,
Yeah.
Mr. Saying that.
Yeah, I think, you know, one question I had is, you know, let's say the town wants to bond a project, okay? So that's obviously gonna be a pretty substantial cost to the town. You know, to me, that's a capital project because it's got a bonding contingent to it. And it's you know, to me, it seems like a capital project. Putting that into the same category or same under the same title as, you know, adding, you know, reclaim or adding a new surface to a road doesn't, it just doesn't seem to fit the same definition in my mind. So I guess it's, you know, maybe semantics, but it's also, it's a way to, I guess, display and explain to the town, you know, what's the difference, what money is being reserved in the budget for certain projects. And I think, you know, in my mind, these are all maintenance projects. We're maintaining the road, not necessarily improving the capital of it. So,
Yeah, I think I slightly in contrast to all the research I've done on, you know, from a municipal or a business perspective, you know, a capital expenditure is something that's done to extend the useful life of something. And so even, you know, to my interpretation would be, you know, reclaiming the surface and rebuilding it is extending the serviceable life of the road, so does qualify as a capital expenditure. I think maybe Tor, you're talking about, I mean, maybe there are different degrees of capital, but I do think that you know, hot patch and storm damage are maintenance. We've got our multi-year capital program, which includes, you know, our 3-year cycle. And it would include, you know, redoing surfaces. And then there are exceptional capital projects like Academy Hill that is beyond that cycle that we're working on to try to get ahead of, get on, you know, get all our roads taken care of. So it might be a three level way to think about it. But I think, you know, again, a lot of it is semantics. I actually have a question for Seth. You know, we're seeing in construction, you know, these price spikes on lumber and other materials, contractors, you know, being, you know, booked way out. Are we seeing any of those same pressures in road construction materials or in labor rates or things that are going to affect our ability to get these projects done?
So great question. I'd like to just take one step back to kind of let, in relation to your questions about the budget cycle and how things have worked, I would agree with Rob, just for clarity purposes. In the past, that's pretty much how I've prepared every budget that I've been here for. John, has been 3-year road cycle projects, big stuff like that has been capital. Anything extraordinary has actually been outside of that. So Academy Hill was outside of capital. And then our regular maintenance stuff has been. So what Rob described is very close to what we have been historically doing in the town, just for clarity purposes and how that has worked. I'm more than willing to change it in any way, shape, or form, but that's very, very true to where it's been. Anything that we've done in the 3-year road cycle or a significant project where we've changed, you know, added safety features or changed a characteristic of a road or something like that, I put into the capital. The regular maintenance, everything else as far as sweeping, line striping, tree clearing, that type of stuff has all been in the regular maintenance side of things. And then if there was a bond, like we just worked through Academy Hill, that was a third tier, basically, that was quite frankly managed and done by John, and, you know, held to a different level outside of these two budgets. So, that's well described and very, very similar to what we've been doing. In relation to your question that you just asked, yes, we are clearly seeing some stressors. Right now, poly pipe is basically non-existent and having a very hard time getting it. Some steel items, we're running into complications getting some steel items. Asphalt right now, knock on wood, has stayed fairly stable. We're seeing liquid starting to creep a little bit. It hasn't affected too many production prices. I expect that it probably will before the end of the summer, but right now it's still, we're still pretty safe with that. The thing that we do, the relationship that we have and how this program works is that, quite frankly, when I submit the budget, I stick to the budget. I think John can attest to that's what it is. And unless it's something extremely uncharacteristic of what it is, we absorb the cost and we get it done. So if labor cost rises on my end by $5, I've already provided you folks a sheet with labor rates on it. We do it every year at the beginning of the year. We stick to those labor rates, and that's what it is. Obviously, if asphalt goes sky high, but I got to be a little upfront and honest with you here, and I hope it doesn't come across the wrong way, but my budget is pretty good. When I give a budget, I know where the industry is kind of headed. I'm usually right on where we need to be, and I very rarely have situations where I say nope, this budget isn't going to cut it, because we're pretty spot on. I try very hard to reach out to vendors prior to putting the budget. So, for example, items that I don't have direct control over, plastics, asphalt, stuff like that. I reach out prior to the budget and say, where do you see this going? How are we gonna, what are we looking? And, my vendors are very honest with me. I have some great sales guys that work with me. So, they say, hey, look, I think that we're going to be looking at 5% this year if you don't do it by this month or whatever. And if I know that I can squeeze it in the budget, or I can work with John, then one way or another, either I put it in or I don't, and we buy it ahead of time. So it's a dynamic working together, giant jigsaw puzzle, but what we have for a budget, I'm comfortable with getting it done, staying on budget, and being where we need to be, unless we really, really start seeing some, catastrophic, dramatic increases. Just to recap real quick, I'll give you one real life example we were working on this week. Striping paint. So the chemical company that produces striping paint in Texas went out when they lost the power and they had the ice storm down there. That one particular plant that makes a chemical for the striping paint got delayed and is put back. So our striper, who normally is in by now, is having a hard time getting striping paint at the cost that he normally does, which is half of what the current cost is to get it. So he can get it, it's just going to cost us twice as much. So it's a matter of patience. So at this time, either we wait a couple extra weeks or we pay a premium and get it done right now and be self-serve. So I elected to say, no, don't. I talked with John. Obviously, I don't, it's hard to kind of talk about these things. So I don't want you to think I just make these random decisions without anybody talking about it or knowing. But I'm like, there's no sense in paying twice the amount of money for something if we could just have patience over a couple of weeks to see if we could still get a better deal and in the end have the same benefit. It doesn't make that sense. It just doesn't. So we're just waiting to see. That's why there's been a delay in the striping, knowing that we've had some extra striping with Academy Hill added to it. I didn't want to compound the problem by then having a dramatic price increase. So we're just kind of waiting. But that's a real life kind of unknown that is going on right now that I'm trying to just to balance and see where we can go. The other discussion that we'll have, part of the reason that we haven't expended every single fund out of everything is because pipe, for example, plastic pipe. It's not that prices have really changed a whole lot, but availability has become huge. So in the next couple of weeks, if I can, we're going to look at the budget and, this is a fluent process. So just understand that, sometimes things pop up, but if there's money available, I may go to John and say, John, we need to buy the pipe. If you're confident that the budget's going to come for this coming year now, because I just need to get it ordered, because I'm looking at about a 6-week lead time to be able to get it. So the project is fine to go forward. But if I wait until July, that puts us back another 6 weeks. So if I can get the pipe here now it allows us scheduling wise to stay a little bit better and on par with where we need to be project completion date wise for, you know, midsummer, as opposed to putting us off into mid fall. Those types of things are becoming a little problematic, but it's more logistics and just timing and supply needs. I haven't seen a dramatic pipe prices haven't increased by 80%, but on the flip side, the supplier EJP has said, if you're going to do it, let's do it now, because, you know, I can get you on the books and I can hold the price from where we were. So let's do it. Okay, well, that's something to consider. So, you know, labor is labor. That's always interesting. Asphalt prices, I get a firm price. I give the town. I've got some, you know, I have cushion in there to absorb escalator. So yes, the town could save $5 a ton on the asphalt mix, but then in September, when the schedule allows for us to get out to Westlaw County Road, if price is up $10, then we'd be coming back after you for 10. I have my budget number in there that's pretty right middle of the road, to be honest, and can absorb those hits. So we, in the past, anything that's happened on the asphalt market, we've absorbed and just rolled as part of the price. The benefit to us is that we know that we have this material coming, and the plants and the producers work with us very much, because the more quantity we give them, we get a harder, steadfast number, and they typically stick to that. I'll give you a real world scenario again, just to prove this point. Nobleboro reached out to us today and said, hey, can we stick to last year's price if we say yes right now for this year's stuff? That's an unknown. I have to go back to the producers. Whereas you folks, I have a set number in the budget already. I'm pretty confident that's all going to happen. We should be good to go, unless I see, you know, a $200 liquid ton increase in the next couple months, which I doubt that very, very much. That would be dramatic. That would be industry stopping. We're good. You know, we've got a good solid number. So I feel very confident in the budget. I feel that we can, you know, we can get some of this stuff accomplished pretty readily. I would like, as far as scheduling goes and stuff, you know, I'd like to shoot for this midsummer. Usually once the budget gets passed, that's always the, you know, town meeting time, you know, to get the go ahead and then get everybody queued up. But, you know, I'd like to be there come August, be getting into this, and so that we get our paving done on a timely fashion, and get this stuff wrapped up so that we're in good standing. I don't really see anything else. The tree guys have been pretty. We get numbers from Asplin, just like we do. We get a municipal rate. They preset their rates for these projects. It's not like fluctuating up and down. I haven't heard of any changes coming from them, so I'm pretty confident they're going to be where they need to be. And everything else we produce ourselves, so we're in direct control of those costs. All of your gravel needs, all of your stone needs, those are all production right out of us. I've already given you and set those rates, so it's up to us to live up to those and honor those rates. I don't see any issues with that. Yeah, it's you know, pretty tried and true.
Seth, is all of this executable by the end of the year, this year, fiscal year?
Oh, that's a great question, Tor. I'd love to say yes, but I'm not. I'm too much of a realist, to be honest with you. I'll say yes as long as we have great weather and everything goes perfect and there isn't a hiccup in the world. We don't have anything nowhere near as big as Academy Hill this year to tackle, so I'm very comfortable with that workload. There isn't anything here that scares me. I don't see any real hiccups with it, but I'll say that, and then we'll have a month and a half of rain and schedules will be a mess, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I don't see anything here that is like, oh my God, this really is scary to me.
So I think when we get to FY23 and we're, you know, looking at what was executed, what was not, I mean, I think what we're carrying forward into that next year, and I know we're talking about it now, and you just highlighted, can't remember which project that you said that still needs to be surfaced.
Sidewalk project.
Which one?
The
The
sidewalk.
sidewalk, right? Yeah. So, you know, there's an example. So anyway, I think, yeah, just tracking that. I think on this, on that sheet, John, that you You had put up the capital roads project, and then the next page down, I had left unspent 169, unspent less projects. Go down one page. Yeah, maybe just talk about those two figures there. You're muted.
I thought if I coughed, I didn't want to throw everyone off, so I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so basically what we're looking at here is we have some projects that were budgeted to be spent out of these monies. There's one turnaround that is in last year's budget, or this year's budget, I should say, of $15,000. We also have the sidewalk project of $82,000. Those two projects unspent. So what I'm saying is that in this little mathematical, and that's not, I haven't looked to see if there's any expenses in the last, say, month or so, but basically there's a total of 169,000 that's remaining in the capital roads reserve budget. But if we were to take out those projects, effectively the sidewalk and the turnaround, we would have $72,000 remaining. So that 72,000 could be used to reduce, needs in some other project. Effectively, it could pay for almost all of the Stonebridge Circle project. But there may be some other invoices that I've missed. But roughly there's, assuming we're going to still accomplish what we're tasked with here, for the current budget for this calendar year or this fiscal year, the next question would be, there would be some funds to be brought into FY22. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, just shake your head and throw something at the screen.
So Seth, another thing that we're sort of talking about, and again, this comes back to how we put different things in categories so that it's easier to understand. I mean, if the selectmen can't understand it, it's even harder for a taxpayer who's looking at our budget and just trying to make heads or tails of it. So that's part of how we're trying a couple things this year with how we laid this out. Again, the what we call it, could change, but I think there was some interest in the board to start discussions earlier, to also help you sort of see where to look for projects for the next year. So just sort of touching base and just seeing how things are going. It gives give you a chance to update us on things that you're finding or hearing, or just driving around and seeing, and it would give the board the ability to bring up some of our concerns that we hear from different constituents or when we're driving around, and to help sort of lay out the next chunk of what we're doing and when and how we do it. So not to get too involved as the board, because that's the reason we have a road commissioner is that we get recommendations from you that serves the best interest of the town as a whole. But I think it would be helpful for the board to have just a little bit more of a discussion and understanding as we move into these different as we move into the budget season. We've already sort of discussed a lot of these projects, and we're saying, yes, these are the projects that we've discussed with the road commissioner, and this is what we want to do. And it would also sort of help what I think could be some potential cost savings for the town, that if we're planning on doing these projects and there is material that's needed and the town's going to buy it, perhaps some of it could be bought, at times bought at the right time when the price is perhaps a little bit lower, when they're, some of these projects aren't cranking, and things like that. It's all about getting it done with, with as much value, I guess. I don't like saying, I don't like saying inexpensive. I don't like saying anything like that. I would say with as much value, and ease and understanding. So I think that's kind of what we're working through. We're still in sort of the beginning stages of this arrangement, and I think it's been working well. I mean, I think we've already seen some huge improvements in how, doing our larger projects over 3 years has eliminated a lot of potential, cutting in, digging up, disturbing pavement that's just been put down, which is what I was seeing a lot when I was first on the board. So I think that's a good, just a good goal, I think, for all of us to sort of work towards. And again, throwing the ball a little bit into your court, because I just want to make sure that you're getting enough. You feel that you're having enough time with us to discuss these projects as they come, and we can sort of mull them over and get them going. But when I sort of review the work list that we have for this year, I think that all looks like good stuff. It looks like the Academy Hill and the High Street and West Old Hamlet stuff really, or the East Old County end of the thing really sort of finishes up the larger Academy Hill project that we've done. Yeah, I think all looks pretty good. Does anyone have anything specific that they wanted to talk about on the work plan that we have laid out currently? Tor?
I do have a specific thing about the Main Street sidewalk.
Yeah.
Under option. What's I guess why is that titled under option or separated under option?
It was an optional item last year.
Okay.
Whether or not the board wanted to accept it as part of the budget, and the board approved it, and so that was part of the package which was approved by the voters. So they went with including that option. So this year, the Sheepskin fire station parking lot was considered an option, and similarly, it's not part of the core of roadway maintenance management, but it was something that the sidewalk was something we wanted to accomplish as part of the budget process last year, knowing that it probably wouldn't have been accomplished by the fall, and effectively it allowed for an amount of money to be held over into this fiscal year, or towards the end of this fiscal year, so that if something did change, we would have the ability to kind of shift on the fly and do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, some of these things are, they're a work in progress, because if we came to you guys with a budget, quite frankly, that included everything under the sun, you'd hate me, never talk to me, and never ask me back. Right. So here's an example. If I had included crosswalk signals for the church the crosswalk at the church, there would be an additional $15,000 that we would have had to add in for crosswalk lighting. So we didn't have it. So we've got all of the sidewalk, the replacement as far as, raising the curb and getting it all back up into a level field and nice and new and stuff. That isn't an option. But one of the things, by waiting just a little bit to see, as we get a little bit closer in the year, John, we can zero out the books, and then we can come back to the board before we do that and say, hey, we have this much money left over. Do you want to add that, or do you not want to add that? That's just a topic that we would be bringing back to the board as part of your consideration. So it's kind of like affording the base model and then adding power windows or power locks to it to take it to the next level up.
Right.
So some of these things that John and I have discussions about, kind of holding, isn't to keep you guys in the dark or to not tell anybody, but it's just to see, all right, we're getting closer to the end of the year. We haven't had any other storms. We're pretty confident that everything else is going to come in on budget as far as street sweeping and, striping, for example. Everything's going to come where we need it to be. So here we go. We have a little bit of money left over. We can attack this problem now if you wanted to attack it. But if I had built it in originally, that you guys would be like, Jesus, there's no way. That's an absurd amount of money for that particular option. That's just an example of how fluid sometimes this budget can kind of move in any one direction. That and that's not the only one that happens. It's sometimes we have it in other areas that it moves where we want to address something right there that wasn't initially part of the budget, but while we're here, it makes sense. As Joel alludes to, it's cost savings, and we're right here. Let's fix it right now. So we use those funds to address an immediate concern. We try not to do that. We try very hard to stick to the budget as it is. It's inherent with some of these projects to run into some, well, I never even thought of that, or, oh, look what I found, or, oh, this changed on us midstream. So
Mhm.
it's not our goal to do that whatsoever. And certainly I'm not suggesting that we put streetlights out there, but if there's money, maybe we could use some of those funds for, I don't know, paving in the park while we're right there to make that a better ADA access for people in and around the park. So that's another real world example that we're trying to accomplish and squeeze in with monies and making sure that we're not over budget, and yet still accomplishing all the goals.
Um,
I'd also just add, Seth, that as projects go, when you run into something that is a big deal, and I mean, I'm just saying this not to tell you to do it because you do it, but I just want to just clarify that if something does come up and all of a sudden you got to blast a bunch of ledge out, or there's a bunch of culverts that need to be replaced because of this, or you find a water issue that you didn't realize was there and you have to do additional work. I think that's the time at which, again, even if it's a quick special meeting to go over it, just so that the board understands and we know where we're headed with it. And we can sort of make that hard decision of saying with you, sort of like, okay, we're going to spend this extra money on this. What do we take it out of so that we can do it? Because we're proving this money. And again, sticking to, what it is to stick to a budget, and you want to do that just as much as we do. So I think the thing we don't want to do is skip something and be penny wise and pound foolish, which is
Totally agree.
Been a very, I've seen it a lot, and I've seen it a lot when I drive around now. I think about it all and I see it and I say, oh my goodness, here's a brand new road that's just been paved, and a year later they're ripping all the culverts up. And I said, well, it's funny, I kind of remember doing that too, my first couple of years on the board. So
Haven't done that in a couple of years, have we, Joel?
we haven't done that in a couple of years, but you know what I'm talking about. And or finding out that a culvert that was put in now needs to be replaced because it wasn't the right culvert, or whatever. There's all these things. So I think that's the, that again is the benefit of this arrangement that we have. And I think, again, just sort of taking this year to work in a way that makes it just work more seamlessly, just to be a more efficient system, something that's just clearer and just so that when the work needs to get done, it can get done. I think that's the way to create savings for everybody. So, or value. There we go. But Tor, sorry.
I guess just one question, I guess, for John. I thought, John, I'm just looking here at our budget. I thought we had a line item for unforeseen storm damage.
Yeah, I left that part in the maintenance budget.
It's in the maintenance budget? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wasn't
Yeah.
sure if Seth was aware of that, so he's not scrambling to rob something else if something
Yeah.
comes up.
That was one of those, just so I'll keep him up to date. So basically what we did was we put we put the Academy Hill reclaim areas and the High Street into this budget, and we left everything else in the maintenance budget. So that was the idea of trying to put all the projects together. So that's why the number is a little higher than what it was, is because we added, 170,000, 171,000 to this budget, as compared to what you had proposed, because, that they wanted to have the projects kind of all in one area. Yeah, that's it.
And I think just going back to kind of the beginning of the discussion about, the semantics question, I kind of don't, doesn't matter to me what we call this stuff. I think just as long as we're all on the same page when we're in conversation. Most importantly, when we get to budget year and we're talking about these items. And I maybe, Rob's obviously got an idea that sounds good to me about what constitutes a capital project, and that's fine by me. But what I might ask Seth to do is just, you had a few tiers, Seth, that you touched on in your you had defined very loosely and quickly a few tiers that you're using to come up with these projects and these budget items. If you could just write a quick description on the different tiers as you see them, we can run with that, and then we're all on that page, and that would be fine by me.
I can definitely do that for you. That's
Yeah.
no problem whatsoever. And yes, this year in seeing some of the difficulties we had, we put in a storm line items. This is the first year that we've actually had something that is, not, just any outside event that might stress the budget. We've put that in. So that's the first year that we've had that.
Mhm.
And it's just a circuit breaker, to be quite frank. I mean, last year, for whatever reason, it seemed like we had a ton of different wind events where we had, trees down and stuff like that. So I I I put that together as just an option, as an option in this year's budget, because it's has seemed to prove itself over history that without a doubt we have some sort of, or a couple of events a year that we need to do something that isn't part of the regular maintenance plan, and we were always taking from some other area to achieve that goal. So in my mind, it just made sense to kind of have an area to go to for that. So at least, when I put these budgets together, John hates me because I'm like, no, we gotta have a line item for that. I want to track that. I want to know, where that's going and how much that's in, So my OCD sometimes gets the best of me. I'm not afraid to admit it, but I'd like to know, for me, I view the position as something that we should be building for the future, right? I'd like to have you guys have some historical value so that you can look back and go, oh, we've put this amount of money every year into gravel, and we've put, for a total of X, and we put this much money in XYZ, so that, it gives you some good data to build off of. But this storm thing was something that was hard for me to chase, to be honest with you, because I never really could get my hands wrapped around it. So we said, well, maybe we have a category just so we may not use it. Great. If we don't, then perfect. We can accomplish something else with it, or, John, you the board can have the decision to do whatever they want, but at least we have it and we have a resource to pull it from, and we can have a way to track it.
I think this is good, and I really like that we're continuing our multi-year process. The one thing I'd like to see going forward is to develop an inventory of all the roads in town, and try to track the condition of all the roads. I think that would be an effort that doesn't have to be onerous, but I think could be really valuable for myself to understand, get a sense of where our roads are as a whole. How many are in really bad shape, so some level of grading of the roads and things like that. And I don't know exactly what form that wants to take, but I think that would help me in understanding the prioritization of, which roads we start on next in the multi-year cycle, and to sort of get in a sense of where we are in addressing, the bottomless pit of our road needs. I mean, I know Seth said if you put everything in the budget, we'd be shocked. And I understand. I mean, I think it's kind of we could spend an infinite amount of money on our roads and not get them all done in a year. So I think, as I said in the very beginning, sort of getting a little bit more formalization of having an inventory would be really helpful.
You bring up a great point, and I can tell you that. So there is a program, and it is available through Maine Local Roads, and we can actually categorize and do an assessment of all of the town roads. And they use this tool to do that, to prioritize, number one, but they also use this tool to help establish a priority list, but also budgetary pre-planning for the future.
Mm.
The one Achilles heel to this program is that without a program in place, now that we have this, so we've been trying behind the scenes, outside of the political world, and us weird guys that that live this craft on a regular basis. We have to get the town to a point where I'm trying to establish a preventative program as opposed to a rebuilding program.
Hmm.
Once we get that rebuilding program to the point where it becomes preventative, then I truly can take the infrastructure of the town, assess it with this program, and then it gives us a plan to move forward into the future, so that we can say we're all at this level here now. Now, where do we go first to address this? Unfortunately, the program doesn't work. Like, it was the Achilles heel is when you are at a point where you're just at total reconstruction because what you have isn't any good. It doesn't provide you anything, because it just says you're at the bottom of the barrel, you need to reconstruct it. Well, we know that already. It doesn't give us any good information. So as we get some of these roads to the point where we have something to work with, and we can move greater into a crack sealing, or just a preventative maintenance surface treatment, or just ditching and redoing, because all the culverts have been put into a state where they don't need to be replaced, they just need to be maintained and cleaned, then I can come to you and go, hey, look, here's a 10-year capital plan that says this road, this road, this road, this road, because of the surface treatment it's on it, and we have all the infrastructure underneath already in place. But I just can't do that just yet until we get to a point where I've got the town kind of on a level playing field. Because if I took somebody out to show them West Old County Road right now, they'd be like, this is a 0. I can't give this a score because it's just no good. Okay, that's fine. Well, let's go look at this road over here. Oh, Station Road, sorry, 0. You got to start again. Okay, well, all right. I mean, so I'm here just pleading my case to the budget committee in the town, saying we've got to get it to the point. Now, if I took that same program and said, all right, West Hamlet Road. Oh, well, West Hamlet Road. Well, it's ditched. We've got culverts. We've got a good surface treatment. In 2 years, we need to put $6,000 instead of $80,000 in pavement just into crack sealing. In 5 years, we need to take that and double it to $12,000 for crack sealing and $2,000 worth of ditching. That road, I have something to work from, not just me, but the town. The public works department has something to work with to bring to the town to say, this is a plan for how we're going to then keep this up. And that's exactly why I've tried to take these small pieces of Academy Hill. You know, we could easily be in a bond situation for from the end of the project through. You guys have already bonded that section of road once before and spent a lot of money. Well, we've let it go to the point now where it's rutted and we need to try to fix it. So I'm trying to fix it as quickly as I can in these pieces so that I keep the road surface good so that then we can get back to a more preventative. We haven't done anything with it. We just haven't done anything with it in a long time. So I'm just trying to get it back over there. Our crack filling as we go through these roads, like some of the money that we have in crack filling this year is going to West Hamlet Road, because if there's 2 feet of cracks on that road, I want it sealed, because it saves us, the town, that much more money, 5, 6, 7 years down the road. So we're going back through these roads that we have done and done that. So your point is well taken. I'm trying to get us there, and I know where you want to go. And there is such a thing as that program. It does exist. It's live and well. A lot of larger municipalities do use it for that, to establish some of their stuff. And I can promise you, once we just kind of get to that, all right, we're kind of on a level field here, we can transition into that, and I can provide you some real data that you can go, okay, this makes sense. This is real now. It's not fictitious.
But that's really a maintenance tool, not an improvement tool.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a maintenance tool to allow us to budget, plan, and then you could take your worst one of those roads, for example, even though we're in a maintenance mode, and go, I want to rebuild it. Okay, then that road slides over to a capital project, and
Right.
you can do it. Or if the utility district, for example, comes and says, we're gonna redo the lines in this street, okay, we're gonna take that street and we can make it part of a capital project and do our sidewalks and improvements at that time. But it gives you a much better, stronger budgeting and planning tool. I just can't do it right now, because the information, what we have for infrastructure going forward, is just, we got to rebuild it. It's that simple. We just need to fix it first, and then once we fix it, we can make it work.
Got it.
Hopefully it works as well as Civic Clerk does, because I can't tell you how much I've been enjoying looking through Civic Clerk. They're still sending me stuff to my personal email. Every day I get a new invitation, it seems like. It's crazy.
Joel, I do have one other. Oh, sorry, Tor, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Seth. I was gonna ask if we can move things along here.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I do have on some other needs from the board, if you can. I've got some topics that I just need some help and feedback on. Nothing that's going to be solved tonight. I just don't want to put them out there as conversation pieces. One, as far as your codes and ordinances go, we have a situation on one of our roads where it is signed as posted, but posted being weight limit restricted. But we don't, to my knowledge, and in conversation with staff, I don't have any factual evidence to back that posting up. We've had requests from citizens to repost that road, but I think it's a bad policy to have fake postings. If it's not real, I think that we shouldn't be fake posting a road without some backing. So I don't want to put the sign back up because it's lying and we don't have any backing of it. But at the same time, I think we're going to have an outcry of the community because they want to keep the posting. But there needs to be some action on a board level or ordinance level that addresses these things. The same thing is with our road postings that we do every spring. We don't have any ordinances to back up those road postings. They're just fake postings. We are trusting that people will do the right thing, but if we really get pushed on it, we have no teeth to enforce those road postings. So that's part of that ordinance that we need to address, along with a street opening and a parking ordinance. All of these things are a couple issues that are going to be coming down the pike, or I'm fearful they're going to be coming down the pike to the board relatively soon. So I think it's worth getting the juices flowing in your brains as to how you might want to handle some of this. There'll be more details to come. I'm not trying to be cryptic by any stretch, but I don't have any specific I can't step out on a ledge and give you specifics because I don't know until they actually are truths to be able to discuss with you. But I'm confident that this might be something that is coming to the board level in the near future where we need to address these and have some policies set on these so that we're consistent and we can manage consistently across the board amongst, everybody and not have different factions of the town or areas doing things differently.
Seth, what's a fake road posting?
So in the spring, when we post roads in the spring with those big yellow posters,
Yeah.
that ordinance needs to be voted on and accepted by the town. So I put those posters up under the pure thought process that somebody's going to see them and hopefully just stay off. But if they decide to drive their truck on that road, even though it's posted, we don't have mechanisms in place to be able to enforce that posting. We haven't adopted the state statute that says here Newcastle has the authority to enforce this rule. So that if somebody does violate it, we could go to them and say, you're in violation of this. You just caused $10,000 worth of damage to our road by driving on it. Therefore, you need to be held accountable and fix it. And right now, we don't have anything like that. So we just blanket post them.
So state law gives towns the ability to adopt an ordinance to enforce weight limits, but state law does not do it unless we opt in with an ordinance.
Exactly. Main local roads has draft ordinances that towns and municipalities can adopt and tweak to make it their own. But it's drafted to specifically coincide with main statute so that we could then reach out and say, we're going to call whoever or the power of the road commissioner, or however it's set up structure wise, but then could go, hey, listen, you just violated this. You're in clear violation of what this happens. We have a couple of roads in towns that have or did have posted weight limits. North Newcastle for road right now has a sign that was permanently mounted that says 30 tons. But we don't have an ordinance, or at least I can't find an ordinance. There's nothing to substantiate that sign is true. And if it is, who monitors it and makes it real? So we've had a couple of requests to put that sign back up, but it's I can't enforce it. I can't do anything with it. It's nothing that we have in an ordinance anywhere. There's no past minute, I don't have anything. So essentially it's a fake sign that would be putting up to stop traffic from doing that. I think that as a town, that's a bad, it's a bad policy. It's not that I'm against the weight limit whatsoever, but I think we just need to develop a policy so that we're consistent and we can manage appropriately with it.
If you could just sort of put together a note or a list of all that stuff that you recommended and send it to John, and be a good thing. We can discuss it later, and especially the parking thing. I think the parking thing is something that we've dealt with before, and any recommendations you have on that would be great.
And let me add to that. Seth and I have already started on a draft of an ordinance too.
Oh,
So we're not on square one. We're like on square three. But the part of it is that he and I we started this before the budget, so I got put aside, and two, I haven't given it to Peter. So that we got to make sure that works. The other part that I didn't do is I didn't take a look at the roads, driveways, and entrances ordinance to see what sort of there's some things. I think I pulled this from somewhere else. I think it was from local roads, but I got to make sure that there isn't any sort of conflicts with those two ordinances, because there's some things in terms of entrance approvals that we put in there, I think, and I just want to make sure we're not. And I hadn't done that yet, but it's important. It's a hugely important thing, and I hope we can. Hopefully, we can get something going here, so we can maybe vote on it in November, or some sort of secret, some sort of special meeting, coming up.
So that's good. Jumping back onto this work list, I'd just like to I'd like to see if I have a motion to approve this work list as presented, pending approval of the funds that are by the taxpayers. Tor, do I have a second? Rob, all those in favor? All right, so the work plan is approved. And then the next question I have is, as far as our contract and everything else for this year coming up, where do we stand with that, John?
Well, which part do you mean, Joel, in terms of
So-
where we stand in terms of what we
Getting
need to do for the end of the year?
Yeah,
Is that what you mean?
when are we getting this contract, the contract signed at by the next board? Is that the deal?
Yeah, so I mean, here basically the way that we the way that we've done this in the past is that we have we've taken the contracts, we've made changes to it over the years, but effectively the contract that we've had the last 2 years has been pretty similar. And basically what that does is that's the part that binds the town and Hager Enterprises to complete the work. As it's a general services contract effectively. There's some items that, you know, kind of describe what is maintenance, and it really talks about the role of the manager in trying to, you know, manage parts of this so that we can minimize any sort of conflicts or, you know, conflicts of interest as they exist. And then, you know, the idea is that we need to have that, you know, we would need to have that accomplished before July 1, because that's obviously the date when the old contract expires. And it puts into effect really the ability to do any of this work that we're talking about. Without this contract, we can hire Hager Enterprises or anybody else to do work for the town, but there's no obligations, there's no contract to support it. So really, this is the important part that really is the kind of the bow around the package, I suppose, that really ties it all together. And again, this is a contract with Hager Enterprises. It's not a contract with Seth Hager, road commissioner, for the purposes of being road commissioner. I think there's been some of that misunderstanding about this. This really has nothing to do with Seth Hager. This has everything to do with the town and Hager Enterprises. And so that's why it's a crucial piece. And the other piece of it is the rates. And so the rates that we sent out, but they went to Shelley and Michelle. They didn't go, but we got it figured out. So anyway, those are the rates for the coming year. And so really, that's why it's, you know, the kind of time and materials thing. We can almost do the math to figure out what the project is going to cost, you know, on you know, any given topic. The question is, one, do you want to do those types of projects? And two, who do you want to do them? If we've answered the first one in terms of we want to do the projects, the second one is then who? And obviously, you know, that contract would answer that. So unless there are some sort of significant changes to that contract, I can simply draft up a new contract, and you know, we can roll with that. You know, either approve it at your next meeting, approve it this meeting with, you know, approval to make changes. But to me, it's good to do this as soon as possible because that solidifies the relationship. And, you know, we've had some years where we've gone into the summer and we haven't worked this out. And it's just, you need to have this thing wrapped up before any summer work has begun, because it really much more it clarifies the relationship and the responsibilities of each party.
So I think my suggestion is that we move that to another meeting. You know, I think Seth knows what's on his workload right now, and you know, he's got confirmation about that. And you know, I haven't had a chance to review that document, even though it's been, you know, been in use for a few years. So I'd like to spend a little time with that, ask questions. So.
Okay, Rob?
I agree, and I think that you know, any changes be made to the document so that we're reviewing the final thing we're being asked to accept.
Yeah, I didn't. So the version I sent showed the red line version from last year. So effectively the changes that we made in last year's document, the last year's board approved. So it's very confusing looking at it like that. So what I can do is I'll make the changes. We'll change that, accept all changes, make the red line changes from last year to this year. And then you guys can look at it. Maybe it's your next meeting, something like that, the 24th.
That'd be great.
I'd like to get it out for you. And if there's some changes or whatever after, then at least we have some time to work on it. But I'd like to get it on your table as soon as we can.
Does that work with you, Seth?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Fine.
No, I know. I understand being in that position, and once you get the contract signed, it's a lot easier to plan for things. So if it was something that you wanted to have sooner, I don't see any problem pulling a meeting next week if that doesn't make a difference. Okay.
I'm all good.
All right. We'll put it on for our next meeting then.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Seth, for the overview and the time, and look forward to updates as we move forward and get anything over 4-inch in PVC because they're not making it in the United States and they're not letting containers in. So, so there you go. That's what I heard. That not going to make anything over 4 inches until the fall. So
Crazy.
get it now.
I know. Thank you guys very much. As always, reach out with any questions and here at your beck and call. So just give a shout.
Super. Thanks, Seth.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Great. So I'm going to move back up to the minutes to 3.1 and 3.2. I'm going to combine those minutes of 4/5 and 4/12/21. Do I have a motion to move that? Rob, do I have a second? Tor, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of accepting the minutes? Passes 3-0. And now we'll move down to the town warrant for, hey, John, you text Peter? You want to text Peter? Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did. Yep.
All right, the town warrant for $55,879.44. Do I have a motion to approve that? Moved by Rob. Do I have a second? Seconded by Tor. Any discussion on that?
One item I saw there was another a couple more lines for Split Rock. I know that the CBG grant, we paid a bunch in April. Is this just all part of that? That just a timing thing or what?
Well, what happened? There was a bit of an error in that. Michelle didn't do the warrant or wasn't involved, and so she's the one who's been working with the state. She was away. Shelley thought the whole thing. It looked like the whole thing needed to be dispersed, so she wrote the whole check. We got the check back from Topher, so we parcel it out as we go. But it's
okay.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where we wrote the whole check. We shouldn't have. We got the check back. Now we'll be parceling it out as he needs it. So first time around the block for these things, so.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Does anyone have anything else? All right. All those in favor of approving the town warrant? Passes 3-0. All right. And now make a motion to move into executive session. 9.1 legal MSRA 4056E.
Motion still good.
Yeah. Second, Rob, all in favor? All right. Let's kill the recording.